Research has shown the single biggest determining factor in whether a happy relationship will last. In 1990, psychologist John Gottman set up a lab to feel like a lovely bed and breakfast, then brought in couples to watch how they interact. Somehow this feels like a very pleasant and a very creepy experiment all at once. But I digress. Over the course of his research, he found a single action that he could literally just count and then predict with 94% accuracy whether a relationship would remain happy. When one partner says, "Oh, that's a beautiful bird outside," does the other partner respond with something like, "Wow, that is beautiful"? Or do they blow their partner off and ignore the bird? It's a tiny moment, but that's what makes them important because there can be so many of them. They pile up. Gottman famously termed these interactions bids. We're asking for a small connection. How's our partner going to respond? And he discovered that couples that would later split up only turned toward each other 33% of the time. But the couples that made it, for the several years he was testing anyway, 9 out of 10 times. Point being, when the love of your life points at a bird, look at the fucking bird. It's the small things that create connection. In fact, there's another study that somewhat counterintuitively shows that happy relationships are built more on how we treat each other in happy times than how much we're there for each other in hard times. But that's for another video. Come along if you feel like it.
Have you ever heard the stat that women speak 20,000 words a day and men only speak 7,000? Well, it's bullshit. The specific numbers will switch around because it's an urban myth, but there's no version of it that's accurate. A few years ago, 2 linguists looked at all the studies on this subject, and only 2 of the 56 that they looked at had women speaking on average more than men. But here's the crazy thing about this myth. It was first published and popularized by James Dobson. That's right, the mega famous conservative Christian psychologist of Focus on the Family. Sorry if you'd gone years without hearing that name and I just ruined the streak. In 1987, he wrote that research makes it clear that women speak twice as much as men. His hard numbers, 50,000 words for women, 25 for men. And then he extrapolates that this causes tension in the home because men come home from work and they've used up their entire word budget for the day and women are just getting started. They're raring to go. And then somehow this fake fact weaseled its way into popular culture. Sometimes it's even cited inadvertently by well-meaning secular mental professionals. They've just heard it so much they assume it's true. So many people believe it. But next time you hear it, you'll know it's bullshit. And you'll be ready to point out that it's sexist, right-wing, evangelical, pseudoscientific propaganda. Have you ever been, corrected for, using like this? Then I have some good news for you. This usage of is sometimes used for emphasis, but more often it's used to hedge what we're saying. And when do you think people started doing this? Can we blame teenagers? Can we blame Valley Girls from the 1980s? Nope and nope. When's it from then? The 70s? 60s? 50s? All no. The usage did start gaining new popularity in the 50s and really took off in the 60s, according to the Random House Historical Dictionary of American Slang Volume 2, jazz musicians, beatniks, hippies, and teenagers. But, and this is the fun part, the first known instance of this kind of is from 1513. In a poem from that year, William Dunbar wrote, "Yon man is out of his mind." Replace yawn with the or something, and it's perfectly modern. So if anyone ever gets on your case, tell them you got 500 years of English history on your side. If you like being told that the way you speak English is perfectly fine, come along, I got more. Someone asked me to share my hangover cure. What the hell, man? What makes you think I have a hangover cure? Also, sure, yeah, no problem, I can do that. First, drink a big glass of water and take some ibuprofen before you go to bed. If you're too drunk to handle that amount of forethought, pay special attention to my last tip. Second, put some more water, some more ibuprofen, and a small but hearty snack on your bedside table. Third, set your alarm for 30 minutes before you have to get up. Fourth, when your alarm goes off, drink that water, take that ibuprofen, and eat that snack, and then go back to sleep so that everything you've ingested can have its effect before you have to be up and around. Fifth, coffee, tea, whatever. This one barely needs to be mentioned. Lastly, if after all this you're still feeling sick, queasy, headache, whatever, you need to just deny it. Suppress, suppress, suppress. And there are a variety of emotional tools that are pretty effective for this. What I use, and again, just personal preference, is a deeply entrenched sense of guilt complemented by profound embarrassment. But things like self-loathing are also pretty effective. You just need to find what works for you. Are you literally told all the time that you use the word literally wrong? Then I got some good news for you. The figurative usage of literally has been in English for 300 years, but just a second, because that is not the best part. The next time someone scolds you for this, ask them who you should believe, them or Charles Dickens. That's right, here's a sentence that literally spilled out of Dickens' quill pen. His looks were very haggard, and his limbs and body literally worn to the bone. Is the person correcting you better at English than Dickens? But wait, there's more! Are they cleverer or more grammatically astute than Jane Austen? Or Charlotte Bronte? Or Mark Twain? 3 more literary powerhouses, all of whom use literally figuratively in their works. If this doesn't change the mind of the person correcting you, they are not interested in learning, which is pretty rude from someone who's going around correcting others. Oh, one more. Even John Dryden did it, and he was so grammatically strict that he invented out of thin fucking air the fake rule that you can't end a sentence in a preposition. But that's another video. If you enjoy being told that the way you speak English is perfectly fine, come along, because I got more. I bet my wife thinks that guy's pretty hot. Is the thought that popped into my head last night as I was watching TV and the main character biked across the screen. But then I had an immediate realization. I was the only person involved in making that observation. It was all in my head. Which means that the idea that this guy was hot was my idea. Had nothing to do with my wife. And then in my mind, without even meaning to, I projected it onto her. Probably because of some deeply entrenched and likely toxic sense of how I'm supposed to think and feel as a straight person. I don't know. Anyway, later I asked my wife, "Do you think this guy's good looking?" And she was like, "He's not ugly. He got cast in a starring role, so yeah, I guess. I don't know." So I guess the point of this little story is that my wife and I have different taste in men. You ever seen a bottle of Angostura bitters and wondered why the label looks too big? Because it is. It was a mistake. In the 1870s, when the founders' sons took over the business, they entered the brand into a competition to get their name out there. One brother designed the label, one brother designed the bottle, but they didn't discuss the size. And by the time they were done, it was too late to do anything else. So they fitted the little bottle with the huge label and submitted their work. And then they lost. But one of the judges told them, "You gotta keep it that way because nobody else is gonna be foolish enough to make that mistake, which means this is gonna be unique. It's gonna make you stand out. It'll be a signature label." And that's exactly what they did. A dumb little quirk that they didn't even do on purpose. Now they're stocked at every bar in the world. They just doubled down on their stupid mistake because it set them apart and it was easy. I'm not saying it's a metaphor, but take from it what you will. Men speak 7,000 words a day and women speak 20,000. I've heard 3 people say this in the last few weeks, and they all say it so offhandedly as if it's a universally known fact. So I'm gonna say this again. It's bullshit. Made up to make women be quiet when their husbands get home from work. The earliest known instance of this fact is from a 1993 book by James Dobson, a conservative evangelical psychologist. And like I said last time I talked about this, you've probably gone years without hearing that name. I'm sorry for breaking the streak. Dobson was like, women speak 50,000 words a day and men speak 25,000, and then everyone just ran with it. There are 3 simple ways to tell that this is entirely fictitious. 1, actual studies. Every time this has been tracked, the results are unsurprising. Men and women speak, on average, the same amount. 2, the numbers people fill in the stat with vary wildly. Sometimes it's 50,000 and 25,000, sometimes it's 4,000 and 2,000. This variance does not lend credibility to the idea. 3rd, I'm gonna say a word and you describe who you picture when I say it. Windbag. Are you picturing a woman or are you picturing a dude? Probably a dude at a county fair trying to pitch you a kitchen remodel. I think I know the answer, but I'm not gonna speak for you. We'll let your comments be the judge. 50,000 words. Oh my God. The pursuit of happiness is emotionally identical to being a drug addict. Now, I've never done hard drugs. Actually, I may have accidentally smoked some opium with an indie bookseller in Missoula one time. Anyway, my point is I don't speak from experience. But in my oversimplified, limited understanding, it goes like this. A drug user gets high, enjoys it, comes down, and lives to get high again. And I just kind of want to point out the obvious. If you replace high with happy, it's how almost all of us have been conditioned to live our lives. Every single waking moment, we're going after experiences that bring us joy, whether it's that first cup of coffee in the morning or a brand new grandbaby. Who the fuck do I think my audience is? Anyways. And then we hope that these moments make all the searching, the pursuit, worth it. But that's our actual lives. It's how we're spending our existence. Choosing a life of pursuing happiness, and I'm using the word choose loosely, is to opt into a life that defaults to dissatisfaction and intentionally leaves misery on the table as a very possible outcome. We do it all for brief moments of elation that we believe makes the rest of our dissatisfied lives worth it. See, we're drug addicts. Fortunately, there are 2 better options, but that's another video. Come along if you want to. You just knocked a glass of wine off a table at a friend's house. There's nothing more comforting in that moment than to find out it doesn't matter. For them to say, no big deal. It can still matter to you, which is why you're bustling around cleaning up glass and dabbing the red wine with white wine, life hack alert. But it doesn't really matter. Now, strangely, it can actually feel gratifying to solve this problem you caused. But if your friend was pissed or sad about the broken glass or the spilled wine, it would still matter, but in a stressful way. It's the exact same way with life. The universe is our host, and they've said, no big deal about everything. Our ultimate host is not pissed or sad, they just don't care. Nothing really matters. And this is what gives us the freedom to feel our own meaning and feel it with ease instead of a sense of fear or guilt. This, my friends, is the motherfucking gospel. You like good news? The universe doesn't give a shit. On the flip side, if there were ultimate meaning in the universe, life would be completely pointless. But that's for another video. Come along if you want to. In the meantime, take a deep breath. Nothing matters, so anything can.